that sound good?
It's great. We have birds.
I know.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Birds and beer. Hello.
It's interesting because you're short. Like, you're very, very short.
Thanks, dude.
This old man was pointing at the moon. This old man was.
So it was weird because the SAS conference I worked yesterday, it was all about, well, it was like a young health leaders summit. They kind of just let groups come in or bring groups in. And the very last panel was titled Death and Dying. And it was all about, it was people who work with hospice and who have started companies like startups to help people, families and stuff deal with it.
Sure.
Woo!
Tough.
Woo! Oh, it's heavy.
Why do you think death is so heavy when it's one of these things that it's inevitable? We all know about
That's
it.
my
It's been
thing.
happening endlessly.
But I think, don't you think is like, honestly, in your mind, don't you think I'm never gonna die? I mean, even though you know you are, and like sometimes you put yourself in positions where you
Have you ever
could.
done like too much acid?
No.
I have.
Should I?
It helps. I mean, genuinely, it helps a lot of.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of. I actually don't know for a fact that Alan Watts did strong amounts of hallucinogens. I know Ram Dass did. I know a lot of psychonauts from the 50s and present day who have done a lot of research with people that have terminal illnesses that eat, a very medically reasonable amount of mushrooms or something, and they put them on a guided trip, and then they go, oh, I'm actually at peace with death now. And there was one example I remember reading in this book recently where this husband and wife, he did his mushroom trip with terminal cancer, and she said that like up until the moment he died, he was at peace with it.
Yeah.
Like he never once after that trip for like 3-4 months after the fact was just good.
Well, oddly enough, I think I'm okay with it. Like,
Sure.
I'm okay with it for me. What scares me, especially now at this age, where stuff like people are out of the blue, dying, having heart attacks and stuff. I worry. I'm more stressed out about my friends dying. Because like there are some friends in this world that I can't imagine not having here.
It's a bit selfish then.
Totally selfish. Totally selfish. But one of the things that they were talking about that I like is like one of the companies, they work with families and just older people or sick people to come up with a plan. Like, and what was the quote she said? One of the quotes she had written on somebody had written on their badge was, "Die how you live." So it's like, basically, this was kind of cool. They were like, the medical industry sees death as a failure because if you're in the hospital and you die, they're like, oh, that's on us or whatever. But you're gonna die. Everybody's gonna die. And so like, it's at what point do you have some kind of a directive where you're like, I want to die at home in my bed? And they even said, like, if you're a smoker and a drinker, write all that in your contract or document or whatever for your family and friends and doctors, and be like, when it gets to this point, I want to be at home smoking my cigarettes, drinking my wine, and peacing out on my own terms.
Leave me the fuck alone.
Exactly. And that's another thing they said too. They were like, everybody kind of assumes, or just, I guess because humans, we don't know what the hell we're supposed to do. Like everybody kind of is the family. I need to be there. I need to be there when they pass away and whatever. And the one person was like, sometimes people, especially introverts or people who are very quiet and kind of loners, they need you to go away so they can actually die.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's interesting.
I don't know that I frequently talk about death because I don't think that most people find it a very uplifting subject. I understand why. I think it's fascinating.
I do too.
I think it is purely fascinating.
I do too.
And in the same vein as a lot of other things that are considered taboo, I find fascinating. It's why is there a need to relate something to a negative part of your thoughts if it's maybe more related to the fact that, like you were saying, I don't want my friends to die.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because like you're just not accepting of the fact that, you know, ultimately friendships die, even if the friend doesn't die.
It's true.
And relationships with pieces of art that you love sometimes go away. Like your favorite band when you were 15 is very different.
Yeah.
And so like that's a death in
Yeah.
and of itself. If you start to look at your relationship to the world, people, things, how you've had this beautiful bell curve of a peak, you know, quality relationship with it, and then ultimately a death in some capacity. A lot of people that I know that have been in long-term relationships and long marriages, they talk about how they've had multiple deaths and like in their relationship, which then turn into a new relationship.
Yeah.
So like, oh, I've had 4 or 5 relationships with my husband over the last
I
20
get that.
years, right?
Yeah.
So I find that really funny, and there's an interesting concept that there's a historical context for it too, which is long time ago, people would die in the house because that's where your family was. So grandma dies or grandpa dies. They just sat with the body for like
Yeah.
a week.
Yeah.
They did, for sometimes a couple weeks. So basically, once started like smelling kind of bad,
Yeah.
they're like, all right, let's, you know. But the idea was it wasn't stigma, it wasn't taboo
Right.
to be around dead people. It was only really when, you know, the Civil War era, and I'm sure other wars, people really wanted to see their dead sons coming
Yeah.
back from war. You had to use embalming fluid to keep them intact. And then you had the wake, and you had the funeral, and it was a whole thing. And of course, like any kind of Judeo-Christian tradition or custom dictates that you do all of this in the first place. But yeah, we have this idea now that death is like disease, and death is terrible, and it's all these things. And it's like, death is just normal. It's
Yeah.
really normal.
Absolutely. It's probably the most normal thing on the planet because it's going to
Next to
happen to
birth.
everybody. Right.
Next to birth,
Exactly.
but even less so than birth because it's sometimes very hard to make things.
Yeah.
There are more sterile people today than there ever have been in human history that we
Yeah.
know of.
Yeah. I heard, I can't remember what podcast it was, but I was listening to William Shatner. He's just so freaking cool. But he was talking about, maybe it was Steve-O's podcast, I don't know. But he was talking about how he thinks that, like, us burying ourselves, like taking up all of this room on the planet to bury ourselves is so selfish and like arrogant because he has some kind of a plan where he wants to be a tree. He like picked out the tree. He wants to, you know,
Right.
grow into the tree.
Instead of going into a coffin, basically.
Right, like destroying that piece of earth that no one can use again because your body's there.
And also like just beautiful wood that's like well
Right.
taken care of that could be used to like build a home.
Right, exactly. I thought that was really cool.
That's a cool idea. Yeah, and I think realistically, I'm even more intense. I'm like, don't plant a seed over my body. Just put me somewhere.
Oh yeah, just
Let me decompose.
Yeah.
Nature chooses.
yeah.
I mean, I don't even mind cremation. Cremation is
Oh,
a
yeah,
similar
I'm
thing. It's
totally
just,
fine with
let me go to nothing. Don't care.
I always liked the water. I always thought like when I was young as a teenager and I was depressed or whatever, I would just envision myself walking into the ocean.
Like a Viking funeral.
Yeah, never coming back. Just
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have an idea in my head. I don't know that I would go out so gruesomely as like a Hemingway. It's not ruled out though. It's pretty cool. Could you imagine? Like, hey, we're gonna like just put plastic wrap all over my office so that you guys have an easier cleanup when I blow my brains out. Also, get it on video. It's probably gonna
Yeah,
look
yeah.
fucking sick. Like AI 3D model this shit. Put it on YouTube. Whatever. But I definitely, in my head, I think, if I get to a point, because I'm a bit of a hedonist, so I like to drink and smoke and
Yeah.
be an idiot sometimes. if I live long enough to not die of some brilliant other thing, I'm absolutely going to have my own euthanasia kit.
Oh, I am all for that.
Yeah.
I am all for that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
just-
a lot of people talk about that.
I don't want to have to go to the doctor and be like, kill me. And they're like, well, we can't
Right.
legally. And it's like, all right, then I'll fucking do it.
Yeah.
I just don't, I'm not sitting here like, I'm not going to go into the fact that I've had suicidal thoughts in the past. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm just like not opposed to the idea of
Same
going through
here.
the motions.
Right. I would never, well, at this moment in time, I would not consider myself suicidal. And same thing, like, I never thought I would make it to 30. I just assumed, like, that was just not going to happen.
I'm 30 in 2 weeks.
Wow, that's exciting. Look at it. Don't do anything stupid between now
I'm just
and
going
then.
backpacking.
No, I'm saying don't kill yourself between now and then. You need to get to 30.
No, I'm getting to 30.
Okay.
I got you.
All right.
Because of you, I won't kill myself.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. After that, all bets are off.
Hey. Yeah, I mean, you know, we all have our little thresholds or whatever that we have lined
No,
up.
I enjoy life. Life is good.
Yeah, I do too. But it's funny because I will think about, I don't think I've ever said this to like my husband or my really close friends, but I would definitely kill myself. Like, easily. I'm not afraid of blood. I'm not afraid of pain. I am afraid of being depressed and miserable. And like having some kind of, you know, horrific, like my dad had MS where you're trapped in your
right,
body
right.
and you can still think. Oh,
Or
hell
ALS,
no. Oh my God. Any of those S's.
muscle degenerative diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
It was weird because yesterday I went to my trainer and my goal is to do a pull-up or two.
Nice.
And I'm getting close.
Okay.
And he and I were talking about something and like, I had just been to that death and dying thing.
Okay.
And I was just kind of emotional and whatever. And he asked me something. I said, you know, my dad had MS and blah, blah, blah. And like I sent him a picture of me with my dad. Like, and I was like, he's kind of my inspiration. And he is in kind of a morbid way. Because I'm like, if I ever get to that point, I would take myself out easily. I guess it's selfish. I don't know.
It's not though, and that's the thing is, like that idea, that thought process, we've been stigmatized by a lot of religion. By a lot
Exactly.
of
Like
even-
suicide, you're going to hell.
And even in the same vein as like you just mentioned earlier that the healthcare industry is really interested in keeping people alive.
Mhm.
And you can say that's because they're profit hungry and they want to keep making money off of you. I would argue that's probably a little bit true. But it's also why lobbyists don't want euthanasia to be on the table. Because people that have debilitating terminal illnesses, the longer they can milk that bill,
Oh.
the more they can transfer that debt. So,
Oh,
yeah, I think that it's 100%. It was originally like it's sinful to commit suicide.
Right.
Now it's like it's capitalistically not in, it's
Yeah.
not in the best interests of your family. It's like, well, that's not true at all.
Oh my God, it's torturous to watch somebody like painfully die, excruciatingly. And people are documenting their, deaths on, well, it's not Twitter anymore, whatever.
X.
Fudge.
X.
I know, the only reason I can even click on that app now is because, all right, I'm Gen X. Okay, I can handle that. But otherwise, it makes me so mad.
Have you had a Twitter account for a long time? No.
I had a really good one, and then somebody hacked it, and I could never get it back. So I just started a random one because I like to just kind of scan it. But I follow a lot of ALS stuff,
Interesting. Okay.
and I guess the algorithms, whatever, show me people who have cancer and are dying or whatever. But they will document their whole story. And like, I don't want to go through that.
Right.
No.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Mm.
And to a certain degree, I had an uncle that had ALS.
Oh God.
He was like a family friend, so not blood related, but
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
close. And he died. I was pretty young when he ultimately passed away. I mean, 15, 16 is pretty young.
Yeah. But still,
But I remember like hanging out with him. The last time I saw him, he had a cane.
that's not bad.
No, and the last that
Did he deteriorate
he
really
eventually
quickly?
got to a point where he was on. Yeah, I mean, after the weekend we went and visited him,
Yeah.
we were taking a hike, we were walking, and he was mumbling a little more than normally, but like he was mostly functional. And it was like, I think about a month later, he was starting to do the wheelchair, like couldn't really walk.
Mm-hmm.
And then a month later, he was using his eyes to type messages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kill me.
Yeah. ALS usually is kind of compared to
Exponential.
right compared
So maybe
to.
my timelines, I'm not remembering correctly.
Well, no, but like nowadays, I think with the drugs and stuff, people are living longer with it.
Sure.
But it used to be, at least like when I was young, my dad had MS, and then we knew somebody who had ALS, and it was like compared to what my dad's period was, it was like 19 years,
Mhm.
and the guy with the ALS was like a couple years, and then he went from like fine to gone.
Right. So isn't that what
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox I thought had Parkinson's,
Parkinson's, yeah.
but Stephen Hawking
Yes, he had, yeah.
had ALS.
Uh-huh.
So
Which is
this
interesting.
is now where I want to go with this. Consider the fact that most people that get ALS, you essentially lose all of your function
Yep.
within a couple months, or well, it's usually
It's
once
probably
you're diagnosed,
years, yeah.
probably a couple years. A lot of what we find, people that have dementia, and they have some form of Alzheimer's. There are a lot of cases in which these people lived very routine lives.
Mm-hmm.
They did kind of the same thing every single day. They took care of their own, took care of their family. They had their bingo nights. I'm making shit up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But they had their routines, and it was very, it was very much their life was in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't a whole lot of challenge. There wasn't a whole lot of nuance.
Right.
And so it cracks me up to think about someone like Stephen Hawking, who lived an insanely long amount of time with ALS. But you also have to kind of accept the fact that the dude was doing some of the most important work
That's
in
right.
theoretical physics.
That's right.
So he had a reason to keep going.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really tough thing to basically put to people, which is like, if you don't want to end up dying miserably or whatever, part of that work is you really defining and sculpting a life
Oh, totally.
in which you don't just start going through the motions of existing.
Exactly. Yeah. That was my mom.
You were telling me that last time.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are totally right. Totally right.
You have to be very curious.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be kind of scared sometimes.
Mhm.
There's this great analogy. The Japanese, long time ago, used to just catch fish on the shores of their island.
Mhm.
And over time, because they fished the crap out of their local populace, they had to go further and further out in their shipping boats.
Yeah.
And what happened was they would catch the fish, they'd bring them back. Well, the fish would kind of be bad. You could tell after a fish has been dead for a while, it didn't taste too good. So they put in, freezers. They had ice freezers, and even then, they could still taste the difference between a freshly caught fish and a fish that was caught and frozen, killed and frozen. And then they were like, let's make fish tanks.
Oh,
So they make all these fish tanks, and they have these fish tanks. The problem was that they would basically stuff these fish into these tanks. They'd be fin to fin, and they would sort of lose their will to live because they knew that they weren't. So even then, the fish didn't taste good. So what did they do? They put a single shark in every one of the fish tanks, and they put less fish in the tanks per volume. And it would make the fish have to swim and chase and be basically challenged to maintain their livelihood. And so then you would be able to pull a fish out from the deep ocean that had basically had the challenge of staying alive.
Right.
And so the analogy there is like you have to constantly put yourself in, caution's way or like a challenge of some sort. Otherwise, you do become
Oh yeah.
tasteless, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because that's what another thing. So, I was telling you about I've been taking these day Disney trips. and this kind of ties in because like when I do get down, I will just sit in bed, like shut everything down. I can't, whatever, can't get
Right.
me up.
Right.
So, and also I start to lose confidence. And I think that's a big part of it too. Like the more you get stuck in your own little mind and world and whatever, the less confident you are. So like, you're not going to go push yourself too far. You're just going to
Think versus do.
Right,
Right.
exactly. And so even though maybe it's financially a little bit irresponsible, I don't really care at this
You're
age.
still gonna die.
I am, and at financial, I don't really care if it's financial. Like I've made a clear decision that like I want to do stuff that's fun and challenges me. So I've been doing these trips actually is good for my confidence
Mhm.
because I have to, and just good for like kind of like we were talking about, just making me do something. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
I have to book the flight. I have to, book the rental place, whatever, rental car. I have to go and I have to go experience something different. I have to go to the airport. I have to be around different people. I have to maneuver whatever's going on. I have to go figure out how to get the rental car. How do I use the rental car? The last rental car I got, I couldn't even figure out how to turn the volume of the radio down. I got in and I sat there and it was like blaring. And I'm like, what the, how do I don't really know
Is
what
this my life for the next 24 hours?
Right.
Like, I had like blasting, just like
exactly. I was
anything.
like, I can't listen to my GPS if I can't hear it. And then finally, I figured out, but it does the same kind of thing. Like it challenges me. And then, go to the park. I'm like deciding what to do, whatever. And then like this last time I had a challenge because right when I was kind of expecting to leave and go take the car back to the airport, it started storming, like crazy
Perfect.
monsoon.
Yeah.
So I'm stuck in a store with people I don't know. But of course, like we're all talking and kind of creating new relationships and whatever.
Right.
So it's like stimulating. And then eventually I was like, well, I have to just go because I'm going to be late. So I took my shoes off and I just ran to the parking lot and into the car with no shoes on. And I'm like, when have I run around with no shoes on as an adult?
Yeah.
Yeah. In the rain.
See, I imagine now you're kind of like really coalescing this idea that once you go out and do the thing, you're like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, this is not
This is not that bad.
right.
Why did I overthink it when I was at home thinking, oh God,
Exactly.
just leave the house once a day.
Exactly.
Just get out.
Mhm.
Most people are more concerned about their problems than yours.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when you give them a moment of reprieve of thinking about themselves,
Yeah.
it's amazing what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm like, so now I do. I have made it a point to like do something, and my therapist is all on. I tell her about it all the time. She's like, yeah, you should just keep doing it, because like I think we've talked about it before. Like I have imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
so I will get stuck. I'll start a project and then I won't. I'll just kind of disappear
Right,
because I'm
right.
afraid.
It's like, that was good enough, right? I'm not
Yeah.
gonna finish it, but that was good enough.
We started, but we don't have to finish because like who knows what it's gonna.
Do you think that maybe that's sort of it's sort of a result of the fact that obviously it's a little bit of nurturing from your mom and from growing up that way, but don't you also think it's sort of like you strike me as the kind of person that is very self-referential, and therefore you really do try hard to be better.
Oh yeah.
You really want to be a good anything in any situation.
Yeah.
And so you get to a point where you're like, well, I can't show up and seem like I don't care. And it's interesting that that's how we think. But I guess, is that a big reason why you have this weird anxiety about life? Because you want to be the best? And where does that come from?
Oh yeah. I mean, in certain aspects, absolutely. The older I've gotten too, the better I've become about like not feeling competitive with other people. Like, oh my God, you're really good at that. Can you come help me with that? Because I don't know how to do it. Because in the past, I would just try to learn it myself and be like, I know how to do this better than you do.
A little bit egotistical thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know where. I honestly think most of it applies to filmmaking. Period. Like I had this goal in mind when I was young that I wanted to be the first female cinematographer to win an Academy Award. So I set the bar so freaking
Very
high
Yeah.
that like anything that I do that's below that, I feel bad. Right? Or I'm scared. I'm like, okay, well, and I also put pressure on myself to be like, you went to film school, you should know how to do this. Like, you should know how to make a documentary if somebody
Right,
asked you to
but
make a
nobody
documentary.
knows until they start doing it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But I then turn it into a giant pile of chaos and catastrophe.
Where does that come from?
Oh, totally from my mom.
Yeah.
Totally from
But
my mom.
what about you specifically then? So we know obviously nurturing
Yeah.
and parental influence is a big deal, but like at some point it transferred into your own.
Yeah.
So do you think what the impetus is for that way of thinking outside of your mom's influence?
I think it is probably, it's a good question. So I think it probably ties into, I've always had like body image issues and stuff. I always feel like, I'm a terrible critique of myself. I was, anorexic as a teen.
Right.
And still am. It's like alcoholism. So I think I expect myself to be able to control everything to make it perfect. And like if it's not, then I feel like I have completely failed. So I don't know. It ties in there somewhere. It's probably OCD, some kind of weird OCD
Mixture
stuff.
of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's also, when you think about things like having eating disorders, having a constant disapproval from a parental figure, having imposter syndrome within your career, a lot of those things sort of revolve around like a mixture of self-acceptance and then also like, your conceived potential.
Yeah.
Like you have this
Yes.
idea in your head of your potential.
Yeah.
And you can look back on things that you've made before or you've been a part of, and you're like, well, that was really good. Why can't I be that good every time?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I always tell people that struggle with that kind of thing. It's like, do you have any idea how many things Shakespeare wrote before he was good?
I know.
Or even like how many roles? You go back and you look at like Robert Downey Jr.'s filmography.
Oh yeah.
And like
I know.
he's talented, but like he does sort of play a certain character.
He does, yeah.
And the reason he does is because he finds his thing and he sticks to it, and that's totally fine. Where you see people like Philip Seymour Hoffman who can play 50 characters, and they're all unique and they're all different. I think that there's a conversation that we're not good at having, which is that most of us are average.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And on top of the fact, because most of us are average, there is a hierarchy.
Yeah.
There is an aspiration. You just said to yourself, I want to be the first female cinematographer to get an Academy Award. That's an amazing goal, and it's an amazing,
And it
amazing
hasn't
idea.
even happened in the world. Like it's never.
Right, and does
100+
it?
years.
And I guess the idea is like, does it matter? Because as long as you can, at the end of each day, say, well, like maybe that was the goal. Maybe that's the North Star that I'm going towards. But like,
Right.
the number of people that use the North Star to go to a certain place and end up on the wrong fucking continent.
Totally.
It's insane.
Totally.
But at least they had a drive. They had a reason to keep the boat sailing.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. And I think I've finally gotten to a point too where I am like there.
Yeah.
Like I didn't, when I think back, because the thing is too, I think I get really lost in, like I have pity parties for myself all the time. You know? Like, that person got it and I didn't get it. But then when I look back at all the shit that I have done and like the experiences that I have had, like people would kill for what I've had.
100% would. Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of it is that selfish, weird. I also think like in school, and just in our culture in general, it's this constant. You need to be better. You need to be more like whoever. There's this constant like competition and comparison to other people and whatever. And maybe I think that maybe that's changing now. I don't know. I don't have kids in school, so I don't know. But
It's not.
yeah, but I mean, because growing up, it was always like, oh my God, so and so got an A on whatever. So and so is the smartest person in class. They got a 4.5 GPA or whatever, and it's like, oh man, then I suck.
Right.
If I didn't get that, and nobody's talking about me, then I suck. I think that has some to do with it.
I think that is a human collective issue. It is a massively far-reaching issue, which is that we get in our heads as kids from our parents who have always had this unchecked imposter syndrome, where they're living vicariously through their kids.
Yeah.
And they're telling their kids like, you're so smart, you're so capable, you can be anything you
Yes.
want, right? And then
Yes.
those kids, when they don't realize their quote potential, it then exacerbates that. And
Totally.
unless you upend that generational traumatic way of thinking, it
Yep.
doesn't change. And the thing is, like, for the amount of therapy that's now becoming popularized and the amount of self-check work people are doing, most people aren't.
True.
And so,
Sure.
unfortunately, the way that the world functions
Yeah.
is it is a constant cyclical cycle of you're not good enough, do better, you're never going to be good enough.
Right.
The number of times
You have no potential.
right,
Which is so.
well, it's actually worse. It's you have all the potential in the world,
Right,
but you're
but
not
you're-
meeting it.
Yeah.
And I talk to my sisters a lot. So I was just with my family on a family trip a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they talk a lot about how one of them in particular is like, I've been dating this guy for 3 years. He's very successful in his own right. He's not making oodles yet, but like he's doing well and he's doing what he loves and he's very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And his life is good. He's got a cool girlfriend. She's doing that kind of thing. And she got a cool girlfriend and a lot of good friends and lives in a cool city and so on.
Yeah.
And so life is good for this guy.
Right.
And she has this perception in her head that whenever she brings up his successes or like good things that happen, there's not a whole lot of interest from the parents. There's not a whole lot of support. And sometimes there's even some snide comments about like, is he really working that hard kind of thing? And I have to try and remind her, I'm like, this is more a reflection of their mentality than
That's
yours.
right. Yeah.
Right? They're so concerned that they're not doing well enough, then how could anybody else possibly?
Right.
And if you flip the narrative and you start accepting things like, yeah, you're not going to be creative every day. You're not going to feel healthy and energetic every single day. You're not going to come up with good ideas most of the time.
Right.
You're going to cringe at most of your shit most of the time. And yeah, you get past that phase eventually and you start making cool stuff and you make better friends and you take better jobs and that process is a never-ending thing.
Right.
But like you can't stop yourself from that pursuit just because it didn't work out, day to day. It's like climate, it's long con. It's not day to day.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that it kind of, in some ways, it takes a village. I think you have.
Yes.
Because partially, I also was listening to Danny McBride on
I
Smartless.
love Danny.
Did you listen to
I
that?
haven't listened to the podcast at all yet. I'm such a bad friend. I've been really.
Oh my god!
I've been playing a lot of video games recently because I just like get really fucking baked at home.
Okay.
When I'm like had a
That's
long
fine.
day at work.
Get in your car and turn on Smartless.
I will. On the way home today, I will.
Yeah, because
I
I
will.
think he was maybe the last one or one before. But he talks about, and like I've heard this from other creative people who are successful, not so much maybe like individual artists like painters and stuff like that. But what I will say about them is I think that a lot of successful artists are willing to study other people and take little things from them and go,
A lot of
I can
stealing.
work this, I
Yeah.
can work this into my own whatever. mix all this together and make something new or whatever. And like me, I'm always like, if I can't just sit down and scribble out something awesome, I'm not an
terrible.
artist.
I'm bad at my
Exactly.
job. Yeah.
but when you know, listen and talk to people and they're like, no, I stole that
Stole
from
that
somebody.
from Seinfeld, and I stole this from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Danny McBride was talking about how he met. Did you know he went to School of the Arts in North Carolina?
Winston?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did actually. Yeah.
So I had no idea. But he met. Oh, I can't remember his partner's name. The guy that he works with a lot. But they kind of went off and did their own thing. Went to LA. And this is so cool. And they kind of found their niche, right? Will Ferrell discovered them or whatever and kind of blew up from there. But they got a group of like 10 people from, their little creative world.
Right.
And they all moved to Charleston together.
Oh, sick.
And I was like, that's so freaking cool. Like, I wish I had my little creative posse. I feel like I have a great support group of just general friends.
Mm-hmm.
So if I ever need anything, I'm covered. But I don't have that creative partner or circle
Right.
where like we all just sit down and we talk about crazy
Come
shit.
up with cool stuff.
Yeah, and then just like try to go do it.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny you bring this up because I've had this exact same realization. Over the years, the thing that I've struggled with the most, being a musician, being any kind of media creative whatsoever, is like usually I've gotten really good at this. I'm really good at like taking someone's idea and then helping them develop it.
Yeah.
And being that collaborative force, and then having a lot of skills that then I can implement to make it real.
Right.
And I have had friends over the years that like I get on the phone and we chat for 2-3 hours, and half the conversation I'm like, I could make a stand-up bit out of this.
Yeah.
Just like the interaction of brilliant creative minds is such an integral part of the process.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like you, and so my new move is like, okay, my new way of thinking is, how do I go and find that group?
Exactly.
Where do I go? Who do I have to meet? What do I have to pursue? So I'm actually looking at doing things like, do I just move to a new city and like just start pro bono offering my services to like this, that, or the other? Do I go to do I go back to grad school?
Yeah.
Do I do
Yeah.
something like
Because
that?
a lot of times that's where you hear people.
Yeah, they find their
They
people.
find their group there.
And a lot of that is just, when you're younger, whether you're going to undergrad or you're going to a big city, it's like you don't have an aim.
Right.
You were saying last time, it's like you went to LA and you just said yes to all kinds of
Exactly.
stuff. Just to like have something to do in some cases.
Right.
And it's hard to like know what to pick and choose if you don't have a real angle to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get to a point in your life where like, wow, I do require a village. I do require a community.
Exactly. Like, and I think too, I don't know, weird shit in the back of your mind, but it's always like, what if you can't get it from within, then you're not really talented. But I think that is so, the more that I listen to creatives, like interviews with people and stuff like that, again, it's like, no, I think other people can bring that creativity out of you and like help each other pull it out. And maybe it's a confidence thing too. Maybe it's like you need somebody else who's like, that's a great idea. I like that. Let's talk about whatever.
I think that the thing you have to start with though, which is maybe this is harder to discuss for certain people, because there are a lot of people out there that want to be in film. They want to be in music, whatever. And the problem is that they don't have good taste.
Yeah.
You have to start with good taste. Because then what are you aspiring towards?
Yeah. Right.
If you're like,
Good
oh
taste.
man, I can't wait to be like Coldplay. And it's like, Coldplay has hits. It's fine.
That's what I was going to say. Good taste, or you have to know what your niche is, what your lane is, and like just
lean.
Yeah.
Lean, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and that there's a bunch of different versions of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not just like, oh, pick a genre of music and go pick. No. But you still have to have good taste. And then it's the collaboration thing that makes a lot of sense there. Yeah, that's a tough thing that I think people don't. We live in a society that really, we live in a governmental society. We live in a country that's like hyper individualism.
Yeah.
It's
Totally.
it exacerbates the idea you have to be amazing on your own
That's
to
right.
be worth talking to.
Right.
Because that's how capitalism works for the entertainment industry.
Mhm.
If you're not already Ed Sheeran songwriting level quality, then what the fuck are you?
Right.
Just
Right.
not real. Do you have any idea how many people work in music that like write for big artists?
Yeah, exactly.
They're not even ever.
The artists aren't actually writing their
A
songs.
lot of them aren't.
Yeah, I know. It is weird. I don't like it.
I mean,
I don't like it.
you can dislike it as long as you want. It's always gonna be
I
there.
know.
But that's also like how it's designed. It's really designed to be like, let's just constantly put people at the forefront
Mhm.
that went the way that we wanted them to, which was to
Yes.
already be prodigal, already be like so good at what they do,
Mhm.
and they invest their whole life in it. It's all they do. And then what's hilarious is like they do it, they get out in the world, and they change.
Uh-huh.
They become artists that do different things. They don't do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And then they lose their spark because they were, in some ways, they were like really true to themselves early on because it was their baby songs or their movie or whatever.
Right.
And then over time, they just end up directing films or writing albums that you're like, this is fine. Because like at this point, it's like your whole image has been all about, oh, what can John Mayer do?
Right. Right.
And then if you listen to his last few albums, like they're not bad, but they're not good either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's weird.
It is weird.
And that's why I'm always like, had big dreams, but like just enjoy your life.
That, and also because I think that has kind of hurt me. Not actively seeking out a little group of,
Yeah.
and I guess maybe I just assumed it would have happened organically at some point. And I mean, I have had them over the years, but like you were talking about grad school. When I was in grad school, I went to grad school for sociology because I was like, that's a backup career. And I loved it.
Yeah, sure.
And I had an amazing little group.
Good people, yeah.
We got into like crazy conversations about theory, and it was awesome.
Mhm.
Like just absolutely awesome. And then when I was working on different films and like different places, I would connect with people and would have these like creative ideas and talk about things or whatever. But then everybody kind of splits up and goes their way, and that's kind of the reality of it.
That's life.
Yeah, but I haven't found that group here or even in this, the past couple of decades, which I think I needed.
Mm. Do you still need it? I think you do, but
Yeah.
so what do you do about it?
I don't know. I don't know.
We can just start robbing banks.
Dude, I played the $1 billion
me.
lottery tonight. Or wait, it's 1.2.
What, Mega
Is it
Millions or
tomorrow?
whatever?
Yeah, Mega. That's my whole retirement plan. It's the lottery.
It's not zombies. Or selling guns.
Could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
I don't know what my plan is. I got time. I'm not even 30 yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a week and a half from 30.
Aww.
Yeah.
Are you excited? Freaked out? What? How do you feel?
I mean, I guess I could say I'm excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so you mentioned just now, like it is tough to find a community of people, and I'm at a point now, and maybe this is just getting to that part of my life where like I know my capacity as a friend and as like a
Yeah.
confidant is like pretty good, like when I find the right people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, yeah, I haven't loved the whole bopping around to different regions and trying to like make friends and live all over the world. Like I want to live somewhere where I feel like I belong, I'm contributive,
Mm-hmm.
I'm working towards a common goal with people. Like I'm having my ideas challenged
Mm-hmm.
in some capacity, and I have not found that for years. It mostly was just surviving.
Yeah,
It was like,
yeah.
Get into the
Totally.
world, get a job.
That's your 20s, man.
survive, all that stuff. But I also think, like life is recursive too.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine at some other point in my life there will be some other version of just survive, just get through
Yep.
these years. It might be the first couple years of having a kid.
Mhm.
It might be losing a really great job. whatever, right?
Yep.
So now I'm like, okay, cool. Where do I go where like cultural values align and like artistic values like are supported by the local municipalities and whatever
Yeah.
the case is.
Have you
That's
ever been
kinda
to
where I'm at.
Austin?
Fuck Texas.
I know, I wouldn't go to that either. But like every single person, and I know some incredible like
Yeah.
talent that's come out of that film school too.
Mhm.
Everybody that has been there just like gushes about how amazing it is.
I've heard 2 stories of Austin.
Oh,
The first story is what you just described,
Yeah.
which is very impressive, really hip and cool,
Right.
and kind of new age, progressive,
Yeah.
like really forefront, really amazing
Yeah.
stuff coming out of Austin. The other story are people that actually live there,
Oh, really?
which is that it is like you cannot afford to live there.
Mm.
It is tourist central. It is like there are no local spots anymore. Like there just aren't because everybody's there all the time, whether it's for South by, for school,
Yeah.
to go see Austin. You know, it's like basically like the cooler, newer Nashville.
Oh, interesting.
And so I don't, and not to knock anybody that loves or hates
Yeah.
whatever. It's Austin. I've heard amazing things
Yeah,
about it. I've
me
heard
too.
terrible things about it. I moved back south after years of saying I would never move back south. And I don't want to go as far as to say that I regret moving back south, but all the reasons I didn't want to move back are still here.
Oh, yeah. I get that.
So it's either west or north for me. So it's
Where would you prefer?
Probably somewhere cold.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
It's not going to be cold for much longer, Liz.
Well, that's true. That's true. That's actually very true. You're smart.
It's not going to be cold for much
Yeah,
longer.
you should go north.
I might go to like the Pacific Northwest,
Oh,
or I'll go to New York.
I couldn't do New York.
I think you could.
No.
I think you could.
No, it's literally because it's too gloomy.
It's too gloomy?
Yeah, every time I've been there. Part of it too, I think, is the buildings. It like blocks the sun to some
Sure.
degree, so you always feel like you're in shadows.
Yeah.
And like, I need sun. I need to see the sun. I need to walk outside and see the sun.
Well, also that's just Manhattan. That's just
Yeah.
the big island.
True.
New York is an enormous place.
True.
Like it's an enormous place. And realistically, like if you're good about what you're doing, like you can go pretty easily and see nature in the area.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
you can
that's
go
true.
and you can do it.
Yeah.
New York to me is like, I think, such an interesting idea of a city because it's in one of the most fucked developed countries in the world, but it keeps telling that country to fuck itself. Right? It's like, yeah, it kind of sucks here, but like not as bad as most places. Like public transit, not great, but still better than most places.
Right.
Like
Yeah, but what about like renting or
it's not as
buying a
bad as
house?
it used to be.
Is it really not?
No, I mean it's not good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like one of those things where the best art, the most interesting people,
That's true.
the coolest things happening are largely in New York.
That's
For
true.
people that are creatives like us, it's like,
That's true.
in my head, I'm like, yeah, I live alone right now. I don't work that hard. Life is chill. I do sometimes,
Yay!
but I have an easygoing life. And I'm like, this kind of fucking sucks, dude. Like, I kind of want to like suffer a little bit. Like, I kind of want to be the guy that like feels compelled to have a cigarette.
Yes.
Not because he's drunk, but because I'm just like, fuck today, fuck today, fuck today, fuck that guy over there. I
You
don't even
need
fucking
to-
know him.
You need to be Harold in Harold and Kumar. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, the Asian guy.
Harold's always uptight and stressed out about his work, and he's like, and like Kumar's totally like doing like
Just smoking
smoking weed, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
And so like, he's like, come on.
I don't know if I want to be Harold, but
Oh, I love.
Harold's great, but he's a little anxious for me.
I know, but he gets the girl.
He does.
I love that movie.
I like kind of being miserable though.
Oh, you do?
I'm
Okay.
joking. I'm joking.
Oh,
No, no,
okay.
no.
Some people do.
Yeah, well, that different episode.
Okay.
I will talk about that forever. I know so many people right now I'll just go into it. I know so many people right now that it's like there's enough evident self-hatred or self-loathing that they mask with drug, alcohol dependency, or relationships that they don't want to be in, or that they tell themselves they want to be in, or jobs or whatever. It's like the lack of self-awareness in that is just really hilarious to me.
Is that just the 30s? Your 30s in general, maybe, or something like that?
I don't think so. I think that, well, maybe it is though.
I think there's something to it.
Well,
'Cause,
give
like,
me your 2 cents first.
So we talked about it, like the 20s, you're just out there trying to survive,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
20, I think I was terrified of turning 25. I don't know why. But I was, even though I was like living in LA, doing my thing, I was stressed out. And, not making any money. Great stories, no money.
Right.
So that was my 20s. And then like, I got married at 24. And so then it was like, do I give up what I want to do now? You know, because you're like,
Yes, your life is being a wife now.
right? But it's hard to figure
I'm
that
kidding.
out.
I'm kidding.
No, you better be kidding. Uh, but no, because then you're like,
Cook now. That's what you
is it-
do.
I did. I became a baker.
I was kidding.
Oh, I became a baker.
Okay, anyway.
Have you watched, The Bear?
It's on my list.
It goes to the top. It
On my
has
list.
to go
On my-
to
Everyone
the
says
top.
that.
Go
and I've
to
seen
the top.
plenty of great TV, and I'll watch it eventually.
Go to the top.
Okay, finish your story.
Especially, it's wow.
So
okay.
24, you threw it all away.
But my whole like my 20s. Okay, so I get to a point where I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just supposed to settle down like normal people and just have a normal job and whatever. So I tried that, and then whatever, that blew up and that didn't work. Then in my 30s, I kind of was like trying to find something between a stable job and something that I liked, and then whatever. So that was like going back to grad school, blah blah blah.
Sure.
My 40s was literally fucking
Shit.
nuts. It was horrible.
Oh, it's bad. Okay.
Horrible. I mean, not all of it, because I married my other husband, but part of that was good. But like, I'm working a corporate job, making great money, fucking miserable, stressed out of my mind, working insane hours. My mom is like getting older and getting sick, and I'm having to take care. Like, my 40s was
Rough.
my 20s on crack.
Yeah.
And like getting out of my 40s, I was like, now I have a chance. Like 50s, now I'm like, I'm somewhat free. I'm financially somewhat okay. I can start making my own decisions without having to like prioritize just putting food on the table or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I look forward to your 50s. I think
I got 20 more years.
make the most of your 30s.
Yeah. I know 40s
Don't
is going to
give
be
up on
tough,
your
knowing
dreams.
the age my parents will be and how
Yep.
that's going to play out and stuff. They're pretty healthy. I think they'll be okay.
How old are they?
62 and 3 or 61 and 2.
So
something
about
like
my
that.
age. I'm just kidding. Pretty close to my age.
10 years older than you.
Uh-huh. That's a mind bender too. Can I just tell you? People used to joke about the whole like midlife crisis or whatever, but literally when you hit 50 and you're like, oh shit, I might only have 20 years left. Like, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. Because in your 30s and 40s, you're still kind of like, oh, I got a long time. I don't think about that yet. And now you're like, oh God, retire. I could retire in 10 years.
Well, I'm already beating them to the chase because I'm thinking about death most days already.
Okay,
so
that's
it's
true.
Fine.
That's true. Are they like that? Do they?
God,
where did you get
no.
this death thing from?
I told you, I
Just
did a lot of
realized-
acid when I was younger.
Oh, so it literally
Like, I'm
is.
not kidding.
It
I did
literally is from that.
some like rocket ship ego dissolving psychedelic trips growing up. Yeah.
Wow.
I like went places.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
And now my dreams, whenever I have like real lucid dreams, like they are like they're like Inception levels of bizarre. Like all of them.
Dude, write that shit down.
I do sometimes. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Make a movie. Damn.
I have so many ideas that I've written down, like
Yeah.
skits and stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll make that eventually.
Oh yeah, I know.
Because they're awesome. They're just really hard to make.
Exactly.
I have
Do
one.
it.
I
Pick
have
one
one.
and do it.
Well, yeah. I'm literally learning how to animate on my own right now, so slow burn. But yeah, anyway, I just think that people, and it's interesting that we do like to stipulate, okay, well, this 30s were great, 40s are terrible, 50s are amazing, 60s are terrible. It's like, yeah, it's a little bit of like your relationship to the world too. It's not
yeah.
just the individual things that happen. It's like
No.
it's like kind of.
It's also society. It's
Sure.
like, yeah,
Sure.
societal to some
Yeah,
degree.
but I think I maybe 30s is like people lean into the wrong things because they're like, well, I have it figured out. I got through my 20s. I have it all figured out. I'm like, man, I feel like your 30s is where things kind of start.
Yeah,
In a
I
lot of
agree.
ways,
I
like-
totally agree.
30s is
Your
where you
20s,
start.
you're still just
You're just like
totally figuring shit out.
talk about.
You
I
don't even
mean,
know who you are. Like, I don't know about you, but I literally kind of didn't figure out who I was until my mid 20s.
Yeah.
Or who I liked as
Well, and
myself.
part of that is just simply biological. Like your brain
Yeah.
stops developing at around 20. Well, I think women's a little earlier.
Yeah.
But the average age is 25.
Right,
So
right.
you're figuring yourself out because you're literally developing still.
Yeah, and I'm watching my friends with kids who are in their 20s,
Oh God.
you know, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
you really are still kind of a child. Like,
Yeah.
so,
It is a strange thing because for me, when I look at the friends that I have right now that I've had since college, and I look at all of the relationships that I've had since really for the last 10 years, now that I'm about to hit 30, I would argue that a few of them I think are self-aware enough that like they're actually really easy to be around.
yeah,
They're good friends because they know what kind of friend they are.
right.
And I do, you do a little bit of the work to meet them halfway, and they vice versa.
Mhm.
And some of them maybe are a little more work than the others, but for the most part, people that know themselves well
Yeah,
are very easy to interact with.
yes.
The problem I have is that most people that I have known over the last 10 years and then subsequently removed from my life unceremoniously are people that like sort of neglect or ignore entirely who they are
Yeah.
because they're
They're
ashamed.
still trying to be
They're
whoever.
processing. They just really want this one thing and they're willing to change themselves endlessly to get it. And it's like, that's like the finance bros. That's the guys that get in toxic relationships. That's the girls that like get married and have kids too early and don't really do any time figuring their own shit out. Like it's not abnormal. These are tropes that are in film and books, and it's just that happens all the time.
Yeah,
And like what a shitty thing to hit almost 30 and go, fuck,
Yeah.
I just never wanted to be that person.
no, I hear you. And
So
I think
I'm
you're
not-
right. I think 30s should kind of be the start of it.
It's like a real start.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up a lot of family friends and uncles. Oh, if I could just like redo all my 20s, and I'm like, dude,
Ooh.
but I could not and would not redo them.
Yeah, I wouldn't go back and do my 20s again. I don't think. No.
I did some really fucking fun, cool shit in my 20s.
Yeah,
but I also
right,
was
exactly.
like manic and insane for most of it.
Exactly,
Like
and unmedicated. Like.
Yeah. Or like overly medicated.
Right.
Jeez, oh Pete, dude. There was one time where I'm like sitting down at Lake Johnson. You know Lake Johnson? It's like the little lake next to NC State campus,
Oh, okay.
just south of it. And I ate one too many tabs of acid, and I'm sitting there looking at the ground for probably only 5 minutes, but it felt like 3 or 4 hours. And there were like, you ever seen Willow?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I thought that I was seeing like hundreds of like little willow type people crawling out of the ground and then back in, like thousands of them around my feet, and I was like, this is not
Were you Val Kilmer?
sanitary. I don't remember what I looked like. And then I looked across the way, and like all the pine trees lining the water turned into like the terrifying witch from Snow White.
Oh,
the
God.
ugly witch.
Yeah.
And they started like, they were like, her face was all over the trees, and they started like forming into each other like a wave on an ocean. And I was like, guys, I think I might have done too much.
Maybe that's the key to life, though. Like,
Do a little too much.
well, yeah. I mean, what you were saying, though, is that it was like 5 minutes, probably 5 minutes, but it felt like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, and let me be very, very clear. I would not change it for the world.
Yeah.
It was one of the coolest things I've ever done, and that was like one of maybe 60, 70 times.
Yeah.
Maybe not that strong.
Yeah.
I eat a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's all right.
But it's mostly very mind-opening.
Yeah.
It's like really
Well-
good for my like sanity.
Yeah. And
Weirdly
imagine how
enough.
many people have like written amazing scripts from that.
Yep.
Experiences
Yep.
like that.
That's why I think about it all the time. Too much medication.
You're 29. You need to do something totally new.
I do.
Like
That's-
right before you hit 30, you need to do something totally you haven't done before.
I've never done before.
Yeah.
All right, let's brainstorm.
Yeah.
What have I done before?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you got a lot of music background. You work out.
Yeah.
Have you done like painting? Have you ever done like drawing painting?
Done some here and there.
What's something else that you like have never thought you would do?
Never thought that I would do, or thought that I would do
Dude.
and haven't done it yet.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah, that's kind of boring. Things that I would never do. Join a dance crew.
Oh,
I don't know how to do that though.
why? Why
I don't know.
not?
I mean, I guess why not? It's kind of like I'm not even opposed to it actually. It's just like I'd rather do it somewhere where like it's kind of cool.
I get that.
Like who's gonna come fucking see me? My mom?
Yeah.
My mom gonna come see my little dance crew? I don't have friends here.
You do know.
would come, but
yeah, you do know that there is a thing called the internet that you can put that.
I
shit
know. And there's venues, there's places to do it.
Yeah.
That one's interesting. I mean, maybe. I have to do this before I turn 30.
Hmm. Oh God, you've got like a week.
I don't have very much time.
When's your birthday? What
The
date?
14th. It's a Monday.
Can I just tell you that all the significant people in my life, their birth dates have been the 14th of some month.
Really? I'm significant.
Isn't that
to you.
weird?
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Well,
and I don't have one in August. No, wait. Do I? Yes, I do. But there, you can be double because she was my brother's ex-wife, so she's not really in the circle.
Your brother's
anymore.
ex-wife. Yeah.
I love her.
I'm kidding. I don't know her.
but,
She's
but
amazing.
yeah.
But also fuck that.
So I'm serious. My mom's birthday was November 14th.
Okay.
Bob's birthday is September 14th.
It's okay.
Um,
That's wild.
my best friend's birthday, Erin, she's February 14th.
That's my half birthday. That's weird as shit.
My goddaughter is October 14th.
14's in there.
Isn't that weird?
I am going backpacking for the first time next weekend.
Oh, that could be it.
That's pretty
That
cool.
could be it.
I mean, I've been
That could be
camping and
it.
hiking and all, but
Where-
I haven't
where?
like gone Grayson Highlands.
What is that?
So the Grayson Highlands is a loop you can do. It's just north of the border into Virginia, just north of like,
Okay.
the Boone,
Yeah.
Wilkesboro area. And Mount Rogers is the big mountain right up there. And there's basically a big loop that you do where you get up about 1,500 feet, maybe 2,000 feet up over a few miles, like 5-6 miles. And then you do, I think it's like a 20-ish mile loop back to the car over 3 days.
Ooh, damn.
Not
So you're
bad.
doing that by yourself?
No, my sister's coming from Montana.
Oh, okay. She lives in Montana?
Yeah.
God, I've always wanted to go to Montana.
It's so
Does she
fucking
love? Does she love it there?
She loves it there.
Yeah.
She doesn't like that like it's miserably icy and cold for like 8 months.
True.
But she is also like a big skier and you make it work.
Yeah. You adapt.
everybody
That's what,
can-
I was thinking about that too. Like it's so odd how, I don't know. A lot of people are so opposed to change and stuff, and I'm like, what was that? Oh, my new car, the car that I just got. It's smaller than my old one. And I was just like, oh God, I'm not gonna be able. I don't even like. It doesn't matter. I've adapted in like a day. I adapted, and I don't care.
Right.
It's
Right.
like I think we forget that we can adapt very,
Humans are
very easily.
we're very adaptable.
Yes.
We're insanely adaptable.
Yeah.
If you show up for it.
Right.
If you want to adapt, we'll do it.
Right. Right.
But we have it in our head that it's so insurmountable
yeah.
because we're overthinking. Just do it every day. It will get easier. I promise. you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, I can't live without my coffee creamer. And I'm like, oh, I drank it black and it was fine.
I haven't had coffee for like 6 days.
We're so weird. Why?
I'm just seeing what happens.
Oh,
with caffeine
well, I
overload.
hadn't had alcohol in 2 days.
Oh my God! Wow. So look at us, little abstainers here.
Well, not anymore.
What time is it?
5:14.
Damn.
Should we wrap?
Probably should wrap.
Look what song. You don't even know what song this is. This is from the 80s. Emotion.
Rick Ockett.
Emotion.
Are you listening to that right
A
now?
classic. No, that was the last thing I listened to.
It says it's still playing.
No, it's paused.
Weird.
Rick Ocasek, The Cars.
What? That? Oh, that's the. I know that name, but I don't.
All right, so hiking is going to be your new thing?
It's not my new thing. I've been doing it for.
Well, you need to do some
backpacking.
backpacking.
Specifically, I'm going to buy a pack this weekend.
Oh, you
I
have it?
have a 2-person tent, like a compact tent.
Okay.
I have
Do you have
the
bear
little
spray?
stool. We're gonna get some bear spray, get some freeze-dried meals.
Dude, please be careful with the bears. I'm not kidding.
They're chill and everywhere
No.
we're going.
Did you see the story on WRAL?
Yeah, they're after it. They're after it. But
Dude.
we're doing
Scratched his face.
yeah. Well, we're doing I'm getting some of those bear trap type things,
Okay.
and I have a bunch of rope. And we're just gonna fucking waste that shit every night.
But be careful if you like walk up on a little cub. You run downhill. Remember
You're telling me that,
that
run
book?
downhill.
Don't get eaten. That book will save your life. Maybe I should give it to you.
It'll be okay.
Okay.
I've seen many bears in my life.
Run downhill. That's right. You have seen a lot of bears. Just don't get eaten.
That's the plan. All right.
Cool.
Good shit.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.